There we go. Okay, now I think we're up and running. I was on my own channel. Great, Mike, great start. We're only 5 minutes in. So basically what we did, hit the comma key, go into project, hit the comma key, you'll go into your project folder probably by default, go into ZZoo, and then I think we loaded up not the duck, but the ostrich. So just load up the ostrich here, and then just like any other ZSpheres, you're able to go through here with move, scale, and rotate, and just kind of start moving stuff around. And then if you want to get rid of any, you can go into draw mode, hold down Alt, and just kind of delete back through. And if you want to add any, you can go through here and you can just start go into draw mode and just start dragging out new ZSpheres. And these ZSpheres look a little bit different than your normal ZSpheres because it's using classic skinning, where they have insert local and insert connector meshes. So that's why. And then, just kind of basically moving this stuff around. So we're going through here and we're kind of just, this is going to be a little bit more creaturey. We basically moved the legs around just to kind of get something started here. And then as far as the arms go, let's make these arms maybe a little bit more pronounced. And it doesn't have to be like, the volumes don't necessarily have to be there, although that's something to maybe consider early on while you're in this kind of phase of just kind of block out. There's nothing wrong with getting your volumes in there. But, you can always add volume when you get into the sculpting mode, or when you turn this into actual mesh that you can go through and sculpt, I should say. So how do we want this to work? You got some wings here. Do we want these like trailing on the ground like big gorilla arms, or do we want like little T-Rex arms with little grabbers? Or do we want to go, my inclination is always to go like, again, this is my reference here. And I got some other reference here too. It's kind of like skinned or featherless chickens and turkeys and stuff like that. But, usually my inclination when I do creatures is either to go really super emaciated or really super muscular. I don't know, it might be interesting to do a muscular turkey. Maybe we'll make these arms a little bit bigger, give us a little bit more room for playing around some musculature on him. And then as far as the neck goes, it's kind of got that deep sweep through here. So that's just basically going through here and rotating down and around. Oh, there we go. Yoink. There we go. And we gotta, come on, rotate. These eyeballs. There we go. So if you rotate these individual, well, in this case, it's not going to do much, but if you rotate down the bone, it'll rotate down the hierarchy. And that's the same thing with scale. You can scale the individual joints themselves, or you can scale down the hierarchy chain if you scale on the bone here as opposed to the joint. Hey, yes, alien bird. I'm doing good so far. Well, I'm not doing great. I started streaming on my channel accidentally because I'm an idiot. But that was only 5 minutes worth, so I think we're back on track here. I'm streaming / recording. Sorry, everybody on my channel. And I might, I'll talk about that later. So, okay, we've got this thing going. He's got some arms here. He's got some legs. Let's give it a little more room. I'm going to rotate again down that hierarchy chain here so we can go through. And you know what? Let's use the move brush so I can move these ankles out a little bit, and then these feet maybe back in just a tad. All right, I think we've played around with this enough. So when I go, your preview, when you hit A, that's going to preview your adaptive skin. So if you had a Z sketch on here, that'd be your unified skin. This is just your Z sphere adaptive skin. Then by default, probably, its density of 3 is up there, but so here's the preview. Looks pretty much the same. And then you may have, by default, if you're just making a from scratch ZBrush creature, you might have a Dynamesh resolution set. So when you do your adaptive skin, it'll look like this, like you Dynameshed it. If you don't want that, just turn that down to 0, and then it'll give you the actual geometry. This is generally what I like to start with. It gives me a little bit more control, and then I can decide when I want to use Dynamesh. So we have our little creature here, and we're going to go through here, and we're going to go ahead and say, make adaptive skin. And if we go all the way up here, this is still a Z-sphere. So if I hit A, it's back in Z-sphere mode. It looks very similar to the adaptive skin in this case. But then we go here. This is our skin here. So we have actual polygons, and we can go through here and we can sculpt on it. X symmetry is already turned on for us, which is nice. And then this is when I guess I wasn't talking about it. So if we go back to our ZSphere, sorry, and we go out of adaptive skin mode. Again, it's hard to tell because, there you go, turn that off. You can go through here and you can hold down Alt to get rid of some of these, and then again we can click and drag to add our own and use move, scale, and rotate. But in our case, we can also do that on the skin. So if I don't want these, they're their own polygroups. So I just go through here, Control Shift Tap with select rectangle here, Control Shift drag to invert, and then geometry modify topology delete hidden. And I'm going to turn that down and just get this thing ready in case my voice starts going. How to create tall sphere because ZSphere only creates spheres. Okay, yeah, that is basically a function of, so if we go out of edit mode, say always switch, control new, and then we grab a ZSphere. So here we have a ZSphere. And then we hit on X symmetry mode and you're just drawing these ZSpheres out, and you can go through here and you can move, scale, and rotate out your ZSpheres. And ZSphere is very, very cool for all sorts of different reasons. But this is an easy way to kind of get things going for volumes and not be a little less destructive than like going in there and just using like a ball of clay, which again, totally fine to do, but this is another alternative, especially since we started out in here in the ZZoo where you got a bunch of creatures you can go through and they're already kind of laid out for you if you want to do a mantis or a mountain goat or a platypus. So we started with an ostrich. However, you have your ZSphere here and you're going to see if I hit A, it goes into the adaptive skin mode, and we can see adaptive skin is set to Dynamesh resolution 256, hit 0, and then now if you go density of 1, Dynamesh resolution is 0, this is the geometry you'll get, which is basically how I like to start out. However, if we go through here, you're going to see with the ZZoo, those use classic skinning, so they have the insert local mesh and insert connector mesh. It's been a while since I messed with that, so I don't know that I could give a real great insert local mesh, connector mesh, use classic skinning. I don't know if I could give a real great, this is something I would have to go and look up and be like, well, how does this all work? Let's say ZSphere, edit, classic skinning. Yeah, I have no idea. Something to do with those two things. To allow you to have something that looks a little bit more like this. So you can actually choose which meshes it draws out. So instead of drawing out spheres, it'll draw out a cylinder, or and also leave behind with your classic skinning, leave behind a sphere and a cylinder that it kind of stretches along the bones and the joints there. So sorry I couldn't give you a better answer on that, but anyway, we have our volume here. Hey everybody. Yeah, just once a month for now. So for 3D printing and organic characters, better to sculpt in orthographic or perspective. Which frame move? So I rarely, if ever, sculpt with perspective on. I might use it to check if I'm doing like, oh, let me pull in a portrait that was shot with a 55 or a 50 millimeter prime lens, so I can go through here to my draw menu and be like, okay, set this to 50 millimeter, and then match my portrait for my head and then match the perspective, and I can just match it. So if I'm matching a concept maybe or a portrait, I'll set my perspective, but while I'm just sculpting, I'll keep perspective off. And one thing you need to keep in mind, especially when you're doing something that you're printing out that's going to be like 6 inches tall, in real life, if you have something 6 inches tall and it's in front of me on my desk over here, this is about how I would see it. Now what you're going to do is you're going to turn on perspective mode and you're going to be sculpting on it, and you're going to use this to dictate how your model looks. Well, if you're sculpting like this in perspective mode with a 6-inch model, this is like having a 6-inch model a ½ inch away from your eyeball. So it's going to skew your perspective. If you take anything that's small, like this pin, and go and put it right here, it's going to do some weird stuff with perspective. If you have it way far away from you, okay, yeah, it looks like a normal pin. This gets a little bit weird. So I would say just be careful. Always evaluate your model from where you're probably going to see it with your human eyeball in the final result. And honestly, perspective is, what's the word? it's not a big deal. It's not. I've yet to see it be that big a deal translating a 3D model to 3D printing and having it go like, oh my god, it's completely different. What the hell happened? Unless you have perspective on and you're sculpting on it like this and distorting your model terribly. You know, if you're being reasonable and evaluating your model from, you know, where it should be seen, you're probably pretty safe. So, hey John, how can I reset my material palette? I don't mess with this too much. I mean, if you're pulling stuff in there, like if you go into, let me see here, ZBrush 2021, Z Startup. Boy, where'd it go? There it is. So if you go into Z Startup Materials, I think these ship with ZBrush, I suppose. So if you have a bunch of stuff in here that isn't supposed to be in here, you can just delete it. And then when you start up ZBrush, it'll be back to its default unless you've like loaded and saved over a bunch of materials. And then you might have a problem. I also wonder if ZData has something, because also in here, if we go into so ZData brush presets, what I'll do is I'll copy off that entire folder, because in here, these brush presets under ZData are the default brushes. So if you change anything in here, those are going to change the default behavior of your startup brushes. And yeah, okay. So here's the actual. So you could do this exact same thing. If you want to get rid of all of them, here's the matte caps, and here's the startup basic materials, it looks like. Yeah, there's some sketch shaded in there. I don't know. These are your materials. So if you wanted to, you could do the same thing. You could duplicate off this materials. And the only reason I say that is just Control-C, Control-V, so that you don't lose anything. And then you, like you said, if you want to reset that folder, or you want to reset your materials, you can also just delete the materials folder you did a bunch of crazy shit to, and then just delete it, and then change this one back to just materials, and then you're right back where you started. Something like that. Is there a way to freeze a sculpt layer so you can sculpt on a different layer without affecting all layers? Only way I found to hide was to hide the layers I wanted to retain details on. I don't do a tremendous amount of layered sculpting. I would say the only sculpting, just like blend shapes, are additive. So basically you'll get a double transform when you have layers on, which isn't a big deal if you wanted to be like, let me sculpt something and then let me just have a bunch of different versions of that sculpt. Probably what I would do in that case maybe is duplicate off a subtool, but I can understand why that wouldn't be ideal either. It would still it would affect your other layers if it's visible, though. You're right. You could turn it down to 0 maybe. Let's try that. Again, I'm not you guys are asking me the hard questions today. Make Polymesh 3D, stuff I don't normally do. Let's get out of my comfort zone. It's not a big deal. So let's go in here. Got our little sphere we want to sculpt on. Let's go ahead and subdivide this, and let's go to our layer, and we'll say, okay, give us a new layer. And we're recording on this layer, so we're going to record sculpting on this layer, and we'll smooth this out, and we'll have, you know, a pair of eyeballs on this layer here. So we have this layer, and we're feeling good about it, so we're going to go ahead and turn off record, and now I have control over this layer. We can get rid of it, we can turn it off, we can turn off visibility of that, or we can even go in here and over crank or under crank this layer. So we'll go ahead and set that back to 0, and we'll turn that back on. So now, if I wanted to, yeah, you could turn it down to 0, but I can see it. So you could make a new layer, and then if I start sculpting here, so we'll go back in our clay brush here, and I want to like sculpt across this layer, and then we turn this layer off. It is going to, I mean, it doesn't double transform, that's good, but boy is it hard to tell what's going on this layer, because again, we can, oops, select this layer and then turn this record back on. So while we're sculpting on this layer, it's like, okay, we're doing stuff, and then we turn this layer back on, and oops, this got turned down. So now again, we're getting that double transform. So it's adding the vert position of this with the vert position of this. And that's just kind of, and it's also a linear interpolation of those verts. So it's going a straight shot from those vert positions. So it's kind of a feature, but I could see why you might want to have a layer here so you can see it and then also sculpt. I don't know. I don't have a really good answer for that one. The only time I've ever used layers is for blend shapes, and that's, I want to not affect the other layers and not really have them visible either. I wish I had a better answer for that. I really don't. How can I move multiple edges at the same time like I usually do in Maya? Sure. So if we have let's start with the cylinder here. So why I like polymodeling in ZBrush a lot is instead of using selection sets like in Maya, I can use polygroups. So I just did a group by normals here, and then I can go through here and I can say, okay, let's do polygroup, polyloop, here, 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 and let's say, you know what, let's inset this polygroup all, and let's say QMesh, polygroup all, and we'll hold down shift and pull this out. And I can go through here, I can say, let's see if we can do anything else in here. Let's go through here and we'll say bevel, edge loop complete, and we'll go through here and we'll say insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. We'll pull a little rounded corner through here, and then you know what, let's go in here to inset polygroup all, and we'll go ahead and inset this in, and then we'll do another inset, and then again we'll say QMesh polygroup all, hold down shift, pull this down, and you know what, let's do the opposite. Let's go in here and say bevel, edge loop complete, and instead of doing a rounded edge, we'll just leave that alone because we can just crease it separately. So through here, it's like, okay, I got a bunch of messy polygroups. Let's do another group by normals here. And that'll basically grab everything you need. Then you can go through here, say crease PG, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3. And then we get a nice sub D mesh here. And then if you wanted to, you can go back in here. You can say, you know what, I'm getting some scalloping down here, so I need to do a control loop, insert single edge loop here, and then you know what, I want to crease this one, so we'll say crease edge loop complete. So we can go through here and maybe crease that edge, and that'll retain, you know, that edge here. And then if we want to add a control loop in here, if we want to, let's also switch back here, tighten that edge up a little bit, we can also use insert single edge loop, again inserting control loops so you can control this fall off a little bit better, all that good stuff. So we have this available to us, and instead of going through here and going, okay, in Maya I'm going to double click this edge and grab this whole thing, well, all I need to do, there's multiple ways I could do this. You can go through here and you can say slide edge loop complete, yoink, or I can go through here, I can say transpose edge loop complete, there you go, and then we can just reset this. We can set it to the middle if we want to, so we want to move this up and down or scale it from that location, we can. You can also do it by polygroup here. So if I want to move this edge down along with this face, we can literally just say QMesh polygroup all, and just hold down shift and just pull along those that surface normal. You can also go through here again, transpose polygroup all, or maybe polygroup island. If you just want to do this one, just tap that one and then just move it around. So if you want to move maybe these 3 edges, what you can do is you can say transpose edge. Actually what you probably want to do is like mask edge, 1, 2, 3, control tap to invert, W, alt tap, and then just grab them. So instead of selecting the edges, you're masking and inverting those edges. Of course, most of the time what I'll do if I want to move something else, I'll just grab it and then I'll say QMesh polygroup all and just pull along that surface normal. But again, you can also hit W and then control tap any polygroup and that'll unselect it. Or you can also go in here and say, what is it? Sorry. Let's see. ZModeler here. Hover over face, spacebar, transpose, polygroup all. Boink. There you go. You can also hold down control and pull out multiple edges if you want to. And if you go into, if you hit Y, and now we're in transpose mode, you can also go through here and hold down control. Let's hit Shift D so you can see what I'm doing. You can control drag in edge rings, so that way you don't even have to go into ZModeler if you don't want to. So, and there's some more ways, but this just allows you to use polygroups very quickly and effectively. And in fact, if I wanted to, like, oh, I wish I could get that top layer here, I would just go to group by normals, crank that max angle down, and that'll get me this one. So I can control tap, so Y, control tap this one, and now I can just move this thing around. Or you can manually do it if you want to keep this alone. Let's say, okay, 45 degrees, group by normals. It's like, okay, I can just go through here literally and just make my own polygroups. Polygroup, here, polygroup, and I can just tap Alt to get a new polygroup. So I just want those ones. Okay, great, grab them. Or I just want, like you were saying, I just want this edge ring here. You can also like scale edge loop complete if you wanted to like scale along here, but probably you want to do like a transpose edge loop complete here. And the cool thing about ZBrush 2021 is there's new functionality. So if you want to scale a bunch, or if you want to transpose a bunch of edge loops, you can go through here and you can say, okay, I'm going to translate this. I'm just going to tap on my object, tap on another edge, move this one, tap on my object, tap on another edge. So that's functionality that's built in. You can very quickly go through here and just kind of reset. So if you're going to be doing this a lot, you can just manually go through here. And then if you don't like that, somewhere under preferences, gizmo, tap to exit gizmo mode is what's allowing you to do that. So you can do that very quickly and then go through here and say like bevel edge loop complete if you want to. And again, insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. We can round this off if we want to. And again, just kind of, I always like to kind of group my normals again, just to kind of clean up what's going on here. And again, dynamic, turn on D for dynamic, crease level 2, smooth subdiv 3 or something like that. That's all in your geometry menu here. Dynamic subdiv and then crease is what we're playing around with there. Is it possible to render your exported Fibermesh from ZBrush to Marmoset? I think so, at the very least. So if we have fibers, because fibers really are just geometry unless you want to export the curves, which is also useful for some programs. So if we go in here to Fibermesh and say preview, and you know what, let's crank those max fibers down, length up, coverage up. So here's my Fibermesh, and in fact, let's go here to white and white, so you can see it a little bit better. So here's my Fibermesh. When I go to hit BPR, you're going to see that it's going to turn into like real geometry, and what that's doing is basically your BPR settings are telling it to subdivide twice and give me more sides, 4 sides. So you can actually do that here if you just go in your profile and say 4. That's going to give you the actual geometry, and then also segments. If you want to go to 6 segments, that's the same thing as like subdividing it twice, kind of. It's giving me more segments down, and actually it's a little bit better when you start grooming. So this is just real geometry. So if you go through here and now you turn this, the BPR settings, just turn that to 0, and then you hit BPR, you're going to get kind of the same result. It's not subdividing, so it's not going to be as smooth, but at least you have control over how many times you subdivide it. In fact, you can probably go through here dynamic and give it a smooth subdiv preview once you hit apply. So this is just geometry. If you, let's try this. Let's say subdivide of 2 and then size, we'll put this back down to 1. So we're going to hit, again, our BPR preview is going to kind of round it out and smooth it out. So let's say we didn't go through here and change our profile or segments. In fact, we'll turn this back to 3. So this is our BPR result, and we want to export that. So let's say we accept, and then now we have our fibers here. So you can go in here and like brush groom. You're going through here and you're moving your hair around, and then we hit BPR, and it's going to be like, oh, wow, that looks a lot different. Let's try. I've never actually done this, but it makes sense in my head. We're going to go to geometry, convert BPR to geo. And then now, yeah, I did it. So that basically converted our Fibermesh to geometry. So now when we go in here, our BPR settings are still going to be looking at, and that BPR is best preview render. So if we go in here to our Fibermesh, down here, it's still probably going to look at those. So it's probably going to subdivide it again beyond the original thing. But at least you have actual geometry here. So if you wanted to, you can go through here and you can be like, okay, let me do a dynamic smooth subdiv preview of 1, and you can kind of smooth subdiv preview and then shift D. So this is totally exportable as just an OBJ or an FBX or whatever you want. Now when you get into Fibermesh and you want to export curves, that's where this comes into play, this export curves down here. So that's a little bit different, but Fibermesh should always be geometry. Now, I've never actually done it, so I could be lying to you, but it seems to work. In my head, a lot of things work. they work better in my head usually. But oh, did I miss one? Oh, useful for seams if you're making large changes. Oh, on the layers. Yeah, I could see that. Wish you'd finally finish college and work with 3D. You're the best. Will you save your live? Yeah, this will be on Pixelogic's channel and my YouTube channel once I put it up there. I think I like about Maya is snapping to grid for modular assets, but yeah, ZModeler, ZBrush, in my opinion, props for character art. Actually, speaking of, there's a really cool on the ZBrush Summit. Give me a second. As usual, I have my notes, and of course Hasbro killed it again. They had my favorite ZBrush Summit, and I think they had my favorite ZBrush Summit again this year. But you know, just because I like seeing the end result, it's so neat. So speaking of modular sets, I'm
especially excited to kind of dive.
Let me see. They did. So this is all done in ZBrush. You know, they got this big, and I've never actually seen The Mandalorian, but I assume it's cool. No way in hell I'm getting Disney Plus at this point, but you can go through here and you can kind of make this stuff as you would normally in ZBrush, and all these guns and all this stuff for 3D printing. You know, all of it 3D printed out. There's a really cool bathroom in here as well. Yeah, so you got the little bathroom here and the little cubby hole. So it's this big ship that you can go through, and you can put your little guys in there and your little baby Yodas and such. So it talks about, you know, how to 3D, and actually the entire ZBrush Summit here there was a ton. Like if you're a 3D printer and you're wondering, or like making robots, 3D printing robots that are actual functional, there's some really cool stuff in here. But anyway, here's the ship all printed out and all nice and manufactured. And then here they also did a modular set, so you can buy these modular sets. So just like in the movies, my room's falling apart. Just like in the movies where, you know, you have a corridor and then you move the camera and you shoot the same corridor again and again to make it look like a huge ship. You can do the exact same thing. You just buy these modular kit sets, and these are all done in ZBrush too. So you can just go through here and take your modular set, and it's all printed out. I think, yeah, there it is. So here's your modular set, and you can just keep connecting these to infinity to get your own kind of ship layout that you can use. And then here's the Boba Fett model, and then they talk about, you know, the last years went a little bit heavier into like manufacturing materials and the different joint types for that type of thing, and also like measuring thickness with transpose and all that good stuff. Measuring thickness with transpose, and also just having like a reference Z-sphere. A lot of that. Oh, and this thing was cool too. So you got this big helmet, and then they went through here and they designed the inside of the helmet with like leather straps and like LEDs and little nano arrays and little battery packs like you would normally find inside of that helmet, no problem. And then you know, and it's all just, you know, you block it out, you get a scan, you model out what you need to, and there's a final result. You can fit it on your head, and it also has all that stuff in there too. So it has LED lights in there too, but I don't think they had that. The one he had didn't have batteries in it. So anyway, here's this if you want to check it out. Cool. Round Rock. I lived there for, Lord, 8 years. Actually went to school in Georgetown, just north of Round Rock. Georgetown Eagles. We played Round Rock in basketball quite a bit. Round Rock Dragons. I have some trouble with my ZRemesh. I tried to ZRemesh after a small ellipse Boolean. I was sculpting a helmet when I ZRemesh keep groups and detect edges. It keeps on destroying the Boolean result. Any tips to get clean topology after a Boolean? One thing I would do is do not use, if you have nice clean groups, don't use smooth groups. So if we have a cylinder here, we say make Polymesh 3D. Number one, keep things very sharp. So instead of going through here and doing like I did earlier, which is like crease, dynamic crease level of 2, smooth sensitive of 3, and get a nice little fall off here so it looks nice, don't do that. Go through here, crank up that crease level, crease it, dynamic, smooth subdiv to get very, very smooth surfaces and very, very sharp corners. It doesn't look great, but you can always fix that later. And through here, we can say append a sphere. We'll take this sphere. We'll say, okay, I want to carve something out, right? So we're going to go into live Boolean mode, turn this to subtractive. So now we have a live Boolean. If you've never played with this, yeah, I brush insert go in here and you can just like literally just swap out different Boolean parts and get all sorts of cool effects here. I mean, this is probably isn't the best one to kind of play with here, but there we go. Oops. So now you can get very, very clean results. Now this one doesn't have D for dynamic subdivision turned on, so I can just hit D for dynamic, and now you're getting a much smoother result. So again, you want smooth results and sharp edges. But we'll go ahead and swap this out again. I wonder if I can just go all the way back in my history here. So we have a result, and again, I want it nice and smooth, so I'm gonna hit D for dynamic, and we're gonna go through here, and this is the shape I want to make. So I'm gonna go down here to Boolean, dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh. And then we're gonna go up here to our U mesh, and there we go. And we have polygroups, and ideally, even before we went in here, I would have gone through here and said, you know what, go ahead and give me group by normals. That's under your polygroup menu. So now I'm gonna have a polygroup for the top, for the bottom, and the sides. So when I do my U mesh, it goes ahead and makes that for me. In this case, since the cuts are so clean, I can probably go through here. Oh, another thing too, if you can at all do something symmetrically, like mirror and weld in the X, or let me go ahead and just rotate this around. So just again do another mirror and weld in the X direction. If it's symmetrical and you're going to ZRemesh and symmetry, just have that on. It's going to give you a much more predictable result, and it's going to work faster. So we go down here to Zremesher. There is an option where you can say detect edges, and then when you Zremesh the result, it'll go through it. It'll see these edges sometimes. It might have a little problem here. So this is where, you know, you may need to help it. So through here, you can isolate this, and you can just literally just say group by normals, and there you go. Now, it does have some nasty geometry right around here that it seems to be having a problem with. In that case, I may, number one, probably don't use polarized spheres, because it's going to get, again, it's going to give it a hard time. But if we go through here, we say keep groups instead of detect edges, because we already have our groups on here. Yeah. Just say keep groups, but turn smooth groups down to 0. If you have that on, it's going to want to smooth the result. So if we go through here, let's actually escape out of that. Let's do half, adaptive size down to 0, nice even quads, and then go ahead and punch that in. So that'll give you probably the result you're looking for. Now this is like kind of garbagey down here, and I think that's just a result of just, again, that polarized cap and that geometry. So that's actually a good point to bring up too, is you want your geometry ideally nice and even. So it's like, you don't want something that's super low res and it's next to something that's super high res if you can help it. I know sometimes it's kind of a pain to even think about, but I'll show you why that's helpful. So if we go through here and we go back to our original here, and instead of this being in here and it's all polarized and stuff, what I'm going to do is, do they have one in the tool, or is it a project? ZSphere test smooth. Yeah, yuck. Okay, so we're going to here, load tools from project. We're going to go into our ZBrush 2021. Give me a second. Z projects, and we're just going to load in this sphere, polysphere. So that way it doesn't blow away all my project stuff I'm playing around with. So here's my polysphere. So instead of having a polarized cap, I can just have this polysphere. So we can go back here to our working file, go in here and append this polysphere. Now this polysphere has actual, in fact, we can just delete this polarized cap out of here. So with this polysphere has, if we go down here to subdivision 1 and delete higher, this is the result here. So now this, and also turn off dynamic. So these are a little bit closer related, and in fact, if we even want to be even more careful, we can say delete hidden, and then I can just go through here and we can say close convex hole. Actually, I'll show you this. So we have two different polygroups, so I can literally just ZRemesh this now. I'm going to go in here to Zremesher, keep groups same, adaptive size down to 0, smooth groups down to 0, and that'll just give me kind of a cap that's a little bit more, I don't know, even geometry. That's probably a little bit overkill, but that's another option you can use. So again, we can go through here and we can kind of stick this in here and then go through here and again crease, turn on dynamic. Let's go ahead and turn on dynamic. Smooth subdiv of 2, smooth subdiv of 2. So again, this geometry distribution isn't perfect, but it's probably going to work a lot better, and not having that polarized cap is probably going to work a little bit better too. So again, we have our live Boolean result. We'll turn on polyframe here. So, oh, and you know what? I actually want to take this polysphere here. Oh no, I guess that's right. We have X symmetry turned on. So if I go through here, and let's just reset this, sorry. So we're going to push this back here, and we're going to slice out a chunk of this. And then again, this one also needs to have dynamic turned on. So we're getting nice creasy results. I go through here, dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh, and then now this U mesh. This isn't great, but it's okay. So again, we have X symmetry turned on. I'm going to do a quick mirror and weld. Yeah, it seems to work. And again, Zremesher, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0 because the groups are already smooth. They're already nice and cut. So we want to keep them, but we don't need to smooth them. And then again, depth size down to 0, and then Zremesher. So this is doing the target polygon count of 5,000, which seems to be working fine. If you want to go lower, you can just say half, or just dial in your own number. Just keep hitting half, and it'll keep kind of lowering that. So you can test, you know, how low you want to go through here. And so now we have this. We can go back in here, crease polygroup, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, and then now we get a nice smooth result. Or since it's fairly decent geometry, I mean, you can also go through here and you can do a crease, hold down Control, bevel width, and you can actually put a bevel in between all your polygroups if you want to as well. But you know, you can go through here, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 3, get a smoother fall off, or crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4, you know, get a tighter fall off. So 2, we'll say 2 and 3 for now. But you're always, you know, you still have ZModeler available to you. So if you wanted to like inset this, inset polygroup all here, and then go back in here to like Q mesh, polygroup all, hold down Shift, and just kind of pull this up. You can do that. You can also bevel. Like I said, you can use your bevel brushes or anything like that. And in fact, if you want the polarized cap, in this case, you can say delete hidden and then insert. Nope, close convex hole, and boop, put this back in there, Control W. So now you have something a little bit more usable. So it's same thing here. If you turn off live Boolean, go to edit mode here, and you have sphere edit, make Polymesh 3D. And you're going through here. Let's go ahead and turn X symmetry on, and we'll say slice curve. So if you're going through here and you're slicing things, and slice isn't going to be a mirrored result, so you just go through here and just do a quick mirror and weld. Deformation mirror, geometry modify topology mirror and weld. It's like, okay, I want these, but I want nicer geometry through here before I extract or do a panel loops or something like that, and get rid of that polarized cap. In this case, Zremesher, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, because again, half depth size down to 0. Again, these slices are already clean and smooth, so you don't need to remake them even smoother than they are. If you have smooth groups up and you ZRemesh and you keep ZRemeshing, you're going to see they'll kind of just continue to melt, whereas if you have this down to 0, it'll go ahead and just keep them where they are, which is probably what you're looking for, that behavior. So once you have this, you can go through here and you can say geometry, edge loop. You can do like a panel loops, crank up that thickness, polish. And in fact, we don't even need polish because it's already smooth. So if we turn polish down to 0, we'll get nice clean loops. And we go through here, let's turn this, that's probably fine. Maybe a little more bevel, maybe a little more thickness. There you go. So we can just pop some panel loops off here, and now you've got these little robotic panel loops that are quick and easy. And in fact, if you want to maintain your outside silhouette, just take this elevation, turn it to -100, and now it'll just punch it inwards. You know, if you didn't want to break that bound that you had originally. So I don't know. Those are probably the settings that you probably want to keep a bigger eye on. Let's see here. How do you think they kept things tight in ZBrush without snapping? Even if you use snapping and you get it perfect, I think having a little bit of tolerance is probably a good thing. Because I think what happens a lot, if you're going to manufacture something, you know, you can have it like, even if you're doing like key registration, it's like, okay, I've snapped it, all these verts are touching. Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is shrink that in. And when you're talking about like, you know, modeling something that's 6 inches tall, and then, you know, you have millimeter size details, and then you 3D print those details, those are probably pretty big tolerances too. So you're probably not getting an accurate result as you think you are. So like, it's going to sound weird, but like eyeballing it, I mean, they probably have, or you can model it out first in another program. If you want a lot of like, hey, I have a grid and I want to snap all my edges to the grid or whatever I need to do, just model your base shapes. So at least you know like the base foundation is all snapped, and then you just, hey, don't touch this, don't touch these geo positions. But boy, they do seem to get, I mean, they're doing joints in toys that are manufactured in ZBrush. So it's like, are they snapping anything? No. But it turns out that it works just fine. Yeah, so for modular sets that are going to be, you know, like if it's going to be like super thin skin and it's going to go into Unreal Engine and it's, you know, see-through and they have to literally snap the verts together, you're going to get like Z fighting or something weird, then yeah, snapping is important. If you're going to manufacture something, it doesn't seem to be that important. Again, I could be absolutely lying to you because I've never done it, but that just seems to be the case. Recommended 3D printer. I have a 3D printer, an Anycubic Photon that I've never turned on, so I can't really recommend it, and I've never used one, so I wish I had a better answer for you there. I have a mesh that I'm trying to rotate and duplicate in precise angles. 4 copies that rotate by 72 degrees. ZRemesh is the way to go, but can't get it to work. Oh man, all these things I never do. Let's start with a cylinder. And let's go in here to initialize, and let's say, is there a coverage on this thing? Tabletop sub ratio, inner radius. I thought there'd be a coverage. Maybe that's just Z-sphere. Yeah, okay. So we'll go ahead and say, okay, let's make Polymesh 3D out of this thing here, and we'll turn off line. So we have this here, and then underneath ZRemesh, say ZRemesh, lock position, lock size maybe. Go in here to rotate. This would be more of a Paul Gabriel question. He seems to like ZRemesh a lot. I use it when I have to. So we can go through here, and then on a rotate, we can say the, what axis are we in? So the y-axis here, y amount would be 360 degrees, and then the pivot, let's turn on our transpose line so we can hit W, Y. You can set this pivot here, or you should be able to like reset maybe. So now when we do our Y amount, there we go. So just hitting reset pivot sets it to the middle. So we can go through here, and then it's like, okay, how many repeats do I want? This many, or whatever. So that might be, and you can always move this pivot around if you want to. So something around like that, you would basically be like, okay, so 4 copies that are rotated by 72 degrees. Because again, if we put in 72, that's only going to be, and then we put our repeats down to 2 here. So that's our 72, and then it's just adding more repeats along that 72. So you'd basically have to be like 72 times 4, maybe, and then dial that in. 72 every, I don't know. I'm an artist, not a math major. Bust out your calculator, dial in some numbers that work, but something like that. As you can tell, ZRemesh isn't I love ZRemesh for like general purpose, like, hey, let me duplicate this around and do what I need to do. Doing stuff like, 12-degree increments. I don't know, man. That sounds like environment art stuff to me. I'm not much of an environment artist, as you can tell. Cool. How to make a fast round brick tower. Probably Nanomesh would be our best bet. So we have our sphere. You can use a sphere ender if you wanted to, but again, you're going to get those polarized caps. So again, if we have this here, let's go ahead and say delete this out of here. So we already brought in our polysphere, so we'll turn our line back on so you can see this. And in fact, you can actually reduce this. Just go down to subliminal 1, delete higher, and then you can hit reconstruct, and then I'll keep reconstructing it down. So here's our rounded tower, and we can just take this bottom off. Oops, Let's switch back over here to select rectangle so we can grab this, invert it, geometry modify topology, delete hidden. You can even go through here now with ZBrush 2021 and you can say extrude edge loop. So you can go through here and you can tap, say delete higher. We can extrude this edge loop and we can tap Alt to grab this entire edge ring. We can tap Shift so we can cycle through the different free angle, planar angle, perpendicular angle. Oh, this is a little bit off. So instead of doing that, it's not off, it's just that this angle is continuing out this way. So it's not gonna go straight down, obviously, but we can fix that. So I'm gonna go over here to close, convex hole, cap this off, make it all one polygroup, W, Y, go back to gizmo mode, control tap this, hold down control, and then we can just pull that out. So here's our brick tower. Now, if you want real geometry, I'd use Nanomesh. If you want to do like, you know, go in here to surface noise and just grab some noise plug bricks in here, just say, give me a brick, and then say strength and mix basic noise down to 0. And then I would UV it first, obviously, so you don't get the planar projection on here, but you could just pop in some bricks, and let's go ahead and hit D for dynamic, crease, let's say smooth subdiv of 3. So you can UV this thing and just tile some brick textures on here, and you can apply that to your geo if you want to, but that could be one way you could go about it. If you don't want to do that, it gets a little bit tricky, I suppose. So it would basically be something like do Shift D. There's actually bricks if you want to go in here to your brush menu and beta tester brushes. There's, I thought it was beta tester brushes, maybe it's IMM. Insert IMM, there you go. There's IMM bricks, so you can just hop in here and just steal these bricks. And you can go through here, and then you can go say brush, create Nanomesh brush. So now we can go over this. We'll say insert Nanomesh, polygroup all, select whichever brick you want, and just go through here. Now, obviously, it's going to be the same brick over and over and over again, and you may have some issues where you need to go through here and like rotate some of these around. It's not difficult, so you can go through here and I think it's, what is it, spin edges. You can go through here and you can literally just turn off X symmetry here. So you can go through here and you can spin the bricks to whatever direction you want them in. So you can go through here and you can just kind of plop those in. Now, if you want to look for something that's like, okay, I want this brick here, and then of course this is just Nanomesh properties. So you can go through here and say, what can you say? You can say, you can also turn off show instance or show placement. And then we'll keep show placement on so you can see what's going on. So if we go through here and we can actually say fill, so it'll go ahead and fill and then size of 1. So now it's going to fill every polygon. You can over crank that size a little bit too if you want those to kind of meet up a little bit more. So now you have bricks just on this thing based on your polygon position. However, it's not offsetting, right? It's not like, hey, I want this one to be over a little bit and this one to be over a little bit. In that case, probably the easiest way to do it, let's go ahead and say Nanomesh off, would be literally just to go through here and say, okay, let's polygroup, polyloop here, 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 and here. So on these ones, I can go through and rotate these, the Nanomesh properties anyway, as needed. So we'll turn our Nanomesh back on. We're going to say copy, and then we're going to drag out on this one, oops, brush, ZModeler, bricks, face. Oh, I still spin edges turn on, duh. Insert Nanomesh, there we go. Plop that brick bite out there, and then we're going to say paste that setting. And then hopefully we can do like a Y offset, no. Z offset, no. X offset. Cross your fingers, everybody. Oh, it kind of works, but maybe not great. Another thing you can do is you can say, okay, fine. Go ahead and you can say inventory, 1 to mesh, or you can go up here like we did before and say geometry, convert BPR to geo. So now all this is going to be real geometry. Did it give me different polygroups for these? No, it didn't. That's okay. It should have given me different polygroups. That's okay. So let's go ahead and say, okay, this is our polygroups here. I'm going to isolate this so we don't. So here's our original Nanomesh thing. We don't really need that anymore. So I'm going to go through here and say delete hidden. So now we're going to say U, Control Shift A, Control Shift drag, and then Control Shift Alt. Control Shift Alt, Control Shift Alt. So we're going to take little pieces of those, Control Shift drag again, Control Shift A, and then you know what? Let's just go ahead and split those out. That's going to be Subtool Split. So now we can go through here. Let's turn off our line here. It's already in the middle, so we can just literally just kind of manually go through here and offset those. So I don't know. Is it great? No. Am I an environment artist? Also, no. Let's see here. Let's go ahead. This is a very heavy mesh, by the way. So when you're doing insert mesh brushes, be very careful. It's like 10 million polygons we're already playing around with. So be careful how many polygons your insert mesh brushes are. I probably should have not used those, made our own bricks, but that's okay. So let's say delete, subtool, delete all. Okay. Let's see. Let me get caught up here. If I miss something, I apologize. This chat gets a little bit long. It's pulling from multiple sources here. Good at using shortcuts. Can you share your notes? Like if you want my interface, do I have that? I think I have that. If you go to my Gumroad channel, I think I have it hidden though. It's load more intro to ZBrush files. Boy, I got a bunch of stuff on here. Intro to ZBrush files. Let's see if this is up to date. What's in here? Of course I don't have it. I have my custom menu and hotkeys in this scene right here. I think it's updated for ZBrush 2021. I can't really tell you if that's true or not. I guess I can go in there and update it. But anyway, on my Gumroad page, if you want to use my exact, I mean, if you want my hotkeys, I can just show those to you real quick. It's not that special. I would say whatever's comfortable for you is probably the better bet. But if you do want them, let's see, ZBrush 2021, nope, ZData. So you're going to go in here to user, let's see, and Windows, see users, public documents, ZBrush data 2021, Z startup, hotkeys. Here's where it stores your hotkeys. And here they are, screenshot. And then that's what they are. And then my custom menu is basically this screenshot. And then if I have a Z-sphere selected, I use my little Z-sphere menu up here. Screenshot. Again, nothing special. Whatever makes sense for you. Let's see. Let's get back. Oh yeah, it looks like I've already missed some. Sorry about that. Can you ready body armor topology for micro poly? Fix broken normals. I'm not sure I understand. I had to see an example of what you're trying to fix. Broken normals. I mean, if you were talking about like setting vertex normals, you can't really do that in ZBrush. You can export all soft or all hard normals, but you can't go through individually and set your normals. There are other ways to measure things besides transpose master. Yeah, you can bring in your own ruler model, and then also under Z plugin scale master, you're probably going to live and die by this thing if you need to be very precise with your scales. So you can literally bring in or make a ruler, or you can make different, like I think they even have in here, new 1 unit helper. So here's our 1 millimeter unit helper or something like that. So you can go through here and use this as your measuring tool. How can you cut in a design or pattern you drew on a model with paint? Probably extract. In fact, there was let me go back to my notes here. There was a ZBrush summit on something like that. If you want to do something very intricate, let me see if I can find it here. I think it was early. There it is. So basically, you can polypaint. Oh, this is everybody's. Oh, this is the tips and tricks. So basically you can use masking or Polypaint to go through here and basically just go through and extract. So here, do I have the final result already up front? Well, here's the process of, using, I mean, this is using surface noise to kind of get this. You basically UV it and then use your surface noise. And then you go through and you have your mask, which again, you can just Polypaint to mask if you want to, and then extract that off, or ZRemesh and extract, and then layer it up over a micro poly, and then you'll get a very cool kind of, what do they call it, like a lace effect. So yeah. You can also use the, what's it called? What is that called? ZSphere, edit, make Polymesh 3D. Let's turn our lines on here. So again, you can mask, and then you can hit Control W, or you can go down here to Geometry, Edge of the Mask Border, and that'll give you a cut, clean cut. Of course, if you're polypainting, say choose red color here, and we'll turn our colorize on. So we're going to go through here, and we're going to say, okay, I'm polypainting. Oops. S RGB. So we're polypainting on our model here, and I'm going to want to use this Polypaint. You can use this Polypaint to make polygroups if you want to. You can literally go down here and you can say polygroups from Polypaint, and then when you go in here, you're going to see you have polygroups now, I think. Yeah, so there's your new polygroups. Or you can go in here to, what are we looking at? So we have our polygroups here. You can also say, if you needed to do multiples, you could say masking, mask, and that's actually do this. Let's hit Control Z, Control D a couple times so it gets a little bit of a cleaner result here. So you're going to go through here and you're going to Polypaint on here, and then we're going to go to mask. And again, if you have multiple, so here's red and blue, RGB, and then we're going to go in here to you can mask by color, you can mask by Polypaint, you can literally just choose which one you want. So I want to mask all the red ones, say okay. And then with that mask, you can go through there again, edge loop mask border if you wanted to, make that into a polygroup. World is your oyster. However, you can also go up here to the plugin, and you can do a PolyGroupIt. You can do PolyGroupIt from paint or border. If you're going to use this, let's hit C, fill, color fill. Go down here, and you can use this to go through here and be like, okay, I want to cut where this polygroup says. And in fact, let's do, there we go. So I got my Polypaint on here. So now you can go PolyGroupIt from the paint borderless, PolyGroupIt from the paint with borders. So we do borderless here. Now you're going to see we have, it basically took the middle of our Polypaint and gave us a polygroup in here and a polygroup out here. If you do with borders, now it's going to just take this Polypaint and give us a polygroup around here. Now obviously, let's see. A little more resolution. So again, if you just want to have a polygroup where that border is, now you have this polygroup, this polygroup, and this polygroup. So that's another easy way to kind of use your Polypaint to slice or design your pattern. Best way is to remesh 3D text so it does not destroy the text mesh. We kind of did that in, so here's my ArtStation page. This has a lot of ZBrush resources for you on it. And in here, you can go to updated ZBrush 2021. And in here, I think I have, nope, that's the wrong one. ZBrush 2021's new. And in here, it's just a live stream. So ZBrush 2021. In here, I think the Halloween one. So there's a bunch of demos up front that just kind of go through, oops, a little bit of functionality here. Okay, let me just click, thank you. So went through and made some text, and this is using the dynamics to kind of go through here. So one thing I would say for text specifically is keep it simple, because you can always add geometry later. So instead of going through here, and again, if you've never used text, you can actually convert SVG files in here too, which is cool. But let's say we want to do a new text, and we want to say, we have our chat. So we have this, and by default, it's going to give you all sorts of options. So you can go through here, you can be like, I want a bevel, and then bevel resolution, and then curve it out, and do all this neat stuff, right? Well, I would not do that if you're going to want to ZRemesh it. Keep it simple, because you can always add your bevels later. Your biggest concern is clean text. I'd also turn adaptive off, so you got nice even geometry all the way around. And if we're good to go, we can say, okay, give me just this. We'll say delete hidden. So this is the plain geometry that I want, and I might even do like a weld points here. Oh boy, I want to grab all that just to play it safe, because Zremesher can sometimes find little things in here that it can mess around with. But anyway, so we'll say ZRemesh, same, adaptive size down to 0, nice even quads, and then oh boy, that didn't work great, right? So you're probably maybe double could work. So that worked a little bit better. Is there going to be a little bit of cleanup you have to do? Maybe. And in fact, are these? Huh, those lines just look a little bit weird to me. So like this, if you're not in love with like, well, should I collapse those? And you're trying all these ZRemesh, sometimes it's easier just to go, you know what? Let's just collapse literally this edge and then polyloop. Or if it's better, just go through here, collapse edge, and just individually, you know, pick which direction you want to go, and just very quickly kind of go through here and collapse this edge. And if you want to scoot it over, you can. You already know how to do that now. So we'll just go through here and we'll say transpose edge loop partial. I think will be enough, and then we can just scooch this. In fact, we'll say this way. So now, nice clean geometry. If you want to clean it up even more, or you want to make it simpler, just insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, just get rid of this, or you can go through here like every other one. It's like, this is too complex, so we'll go ahead and just knock this down. Is it tedious? Yes, but less tedious than manually going through and, you know, trying to get perfect quad geo. You know, it did a pretty damn good job, honestly. It didn't take that long, and I could go through there and just clean up these letters as needed. And then from here, and actually we can probably get rid of this too. So yeah, do your cleanup pass. And you know, this isn't great, so go through and collapse that if you need to. You can go through, hold down Alt, and get rid of any extraneous loops if you can, like through here. I knew this was looking weird. Let's do this. Let's do auto groups. So we have some lamina geometry there. So I thought that looked a little bit weird to me. Delete hidden. There we go. So insert single edge loop. And again, just go through here and just, and again, you could probably replace this with a nice primitive geo if you wanted to, but that was simple enough. So we have our text, and it's like, well, what about the bevels I wanted to do? All you would need to do at this point is say, hover over face, QMesh, polygroup all, go back in here, and let's say instead of polygroup all, we'll say all polygons. Go ahead and give our thickness back in here. And then if you want to do your bevels again, you can quickly just go through here. And because we have our polygroups now, because it gave us new polygroups when we polymeshed it, I'll hold down Control and just pop in your bevels here. Now, the only caveat would be, number one is doing it on both sides, which is fine. And number two, how would you go through here and round this out? You'd have to literally go through here, insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation, round it out a little bit, give the resolution you wanted, and then just go through here and tap all of these so that they inherited the same properties. So it's not a lot of work, but it's not as interactive or as non-destructive as using the text, but you know, you still get the job done. I think. And then again, if you know, you want to go through here and smooth this out, you can say, you know, let's keep these creased. Say Control W. Oh, did it keep that? Yeah, it did. That's okay. So we'll say, you know what we may need to do? I need a crease. Just hit D for dynamic. I'll kind of soften it up a little bit. So there you go. Chat. Oh boy, I think I missed a bunch. Getting caught up here. Cool, yeah, ZBrush 2021.5 looks neat. Go have that up here. I think they had at the ZBrush Summit that I linked earlier, they had a preview of the new stuff coming out. Let me see if I can find it. Streaming me. Oops. Streaming me. If you want to see, hey, there I am live right now. So here's, when I stream on this channel, Pixel Logic, which is first Tuesday of the month. This is where all my archives are. So if you're looking for the old videos, it's there. And then on my channel, I'll also post this on my channel as well as I'll stream on my own channel the first Thursday of every month, usually. You can see if you go here to playlist all, but here's the past live streams and stuff like that. So you can get caught up there if you want. But anyway, I was going to go to Pixel Logic's channel because they do have, what do they have? They have ZBrush top tips and also the sculpt off. Here's a sneak preview. So here's the new 2021.5 new feature sneak preview coming out. So if you want to get a sneak preview of all that cool stuff, you can check this video out. And because Restream takes my chat all the way to the top, I got to refind out. Show some tips about stylized fur. It kind of depends on how chunky and stylized you want to go. So you probably either want to use a VDM or very Fibermesh with a very chunky setting, which would be basically your coverage. Crank that coverage up. How come this guy speaks so fast? How come you listen so slow? Thank you, Fixie. How to control curve tool in ZBrush. You're talking about curve brushes. In fact, on my YouTube channel, I think I have I got a bunch of stuff on like curves helper and controlling curves in here that might help. If you're talking about like how to precisely place a curve for like IMM brushes, that would be where to go. Oh, I just got one here. I just thought, what's the difference between Nanomesh and Micromesh? So I do have in the ZBrush 2021 what's new. You know what? My ArtStation's a little bit easier to look at. Oh, it's right here. ZBrush 2021 what's new. If we go in here to find, we say micro mesh. Oh my, it's micropoly. Micropoly versus micromesh. So video 39 in this series. So video 40 is micropoly basics, but before I get into micropoly, I talk a little bit about micropoly versus micromesh. And then the next 10 videos, it looks like, are all different ways to use micropoly and how to set your own up. So start with video number 39. And in fact, let's do this. Let's say, okay, close that out. Let's go to YouTube. There we go. So this will give, this is in that. So here, I think, maybe not. Sorry. You, go away. You, micropoly versus micromesh. There we go. Index number 47 out of this entire playlist right here. So if you have a lot of questions about ZBrush 2021, that should keep you covered until the new stuff comes out. Okay, back up to the top here. And sorry if I missed any. You're fast, is it from your college times? I mean, I've been using ZBrush since college, so that probably helps. But again, just like, it's mostly just remembering where things are. And it's not rocket science, you know, especially with, like, a lot of people are like, oh, ZModeler. Oh, how does it work? Well, I don't use everything in here. I use like 5 things and I know where they are, and it takes me a couple days to remember where things are. So if I go through here and I need to do an inset polygroup all, there we go. If I want to do a cube mesh polygroup all, there we go. And that's basically all I do. It's not like I memorize this entire thing and I'm so fast. It's just that I know where cube mesh is. I know where inset is. I know where bridge and bevel are, because they use those sometimes. Extrude sometimes, and that's about it. And I'll transpose I'll use sometimes, and I probably have to hunt for that one. Spin edges I barely ever use, but I know it's in there. So it's part of a mix of, I know what's in there and I know what it can do. Do I have it memorized where it is? Probably not, because I don't use it that much. But it only takes me a second to go, okay, it's all in alphabetical order. Spin, edges, boom, there we go, perfect. So instead of, and now the alternative, because I know a lot of people get like, oh my God, I'm just starting out and there's more than one option. How can my brain handle all this? Well, it's no different than having all this stuff in a menu up here, like in Maya or something, where it's like, oh, let me go in here. Boom, polygons, nested menu, spin edges. This is right here. So why would I want to go through 3 menu options in Maya if I can just see it there? Well, the reason is because a lot of people when they're first starting out go, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed, I hate it. But it's actually harder to go into the compartmentalized, you know what I mean? You know, so it's, I don't know. I use all the programs, so I understand like there's some things that are easier and simpler, but also don't confuse easier and simpler with actually more difficult and more nested and more hierarchy and more compartmentalized with simpler, because it's not. This is simple as it gets, minus the fact that you have to kind of know where things are. But the exact same thing could be said where, okay, in Maya, is this mesh function under edit mesh? Is it under mesh? Is it under poly? Is it under, you know, those stupid menus they have? Hey, I'm a Maya user. I've been using it for 20 years. So again, it's great. So ZBrush for different reasons. But, you know, speed just comes from just a little bit of muscle memory and a little bit of just rote memorization. And it's not that hard. Use a graphics tablet or a mouse. Just a Wacom Intuos Pro Medium is all I ever use now. I can make my own plugins for ZBrush. That'd be a good Joseph Drust question. He makes all the cool plugins. Not all of them, but he makes a lot of them. There might be an Ask ZBrush on that. But I have no clue. Can you lock the feet like you have in Max IK so you can move the knees down more so the body moves down as well? No, it's all forward. I was trying to think if you could like mask something. Hell, maybe. Let's try it. X here. I guess we could use a mannequin for this, but you know what? Let's just make our own ZSphere here. So here, U, Q, W. So here we have our little dude or girl. Q here. And we'll go ahead and rotate these up. So these are all forward kinematics here. So if I go down here, just rotating through the hierarchy chain, right? Parent to child. However, if I wanted to maybe lock these feet and then move the rest of this down, can I move? Even masked, it's still gonna move. I was hoping that if I masked something off, it wouldn't move and you could maybe have a janky IK, but it doesn't appear to be the case. My character artist, I'm a director of character art, so no. I'm mostly a spreadsheet guy. That's the other thing too, is I don't use ZBrush that much in my day-to-day anymore, although I'm trying to use it more. But again, any speed that I have, this is from a user who doesn't use ZBrush that much, again, but it's just kind of remembering where things are. Cool, Thailand. Give an idea about panel loop? Sure. We kind of went over panel loop a little bit earlier. Switch to our topic. I'm good. Like to wrap a potato, for example, with plastic. How would you do that with a spiral mesh? Ooh, that's a tough one. I kind of see where you're coming from if you wanted to do like a peeling effect. You can maybe use, this isn't going to be great, but you can maybe start with, so here's my potato. Let's go ahead and ZRemesh half. Just get rid of those polarized caps. So actually we can turn on X symmetry, get a little bit of a more predictable result there. So we have a potato and we want to peel this potato in a spiral. So let's go ahead and duplicate this off and then turn off X symmetry. Because you can slice through it, but that's not going to give you a spiral. You could use dynamics and wrap something around it, but you'd have to sew it up again. you could use a helix primitive and make it very simplified so that it just has a spiral and then kind of fit it to this. I really don't have a great answer for that. I'm sorry. Maybe one of those. It wouldn't be real fun to watch me try, is why I'm not going to delve too deeply into that. But spiral or dynamics where you can use en masse to wrap it would be my, off the top of my head, how I would maybe approach that. Do you need a Wacom tablet for ZBrush, or can you work normally with the mouse? I would not use a mouse for ZBrush. It's useful for some things, but they're pretty rare. If you're going to do any sculpting, you know, Control D, oops, do anything like this, where it's like, hey, let's sculpt a face and go through here, and yeah, no. I was going to say, well, I mean, if you wanted to, you could, but no. I mean, it's an investment in your time and effort, and it's, you know, I don't know, whatever tablet you want to use that has pressure sensitivity, but the amount of time and ability and how much better your product will be with a tablet is far outweighs just being like, you know what, I have a mouse, I'm just going to use a mouse. It's like, spend a couple $100 to save you a couple $1 million worth of effort and time and ability and results. Because, oh man, I can't imagine using ZBrush with a mouse. Yuck. Yeah. Yeah, and again, this I use an Intuos Pro Medium from 10 years ago. So it's nothing special. Alphamesh tileable in ZBrush and nano tileable plane. Yeah. So again, on my YouTube channel here. Nano tile. Knock yourself out. I hate how it shoots me to the bottom and I lose my place. Oh, I missed one. Can you recommend one of your tutorials for learn hard surface modeling in ZBrush? One of them? Probably not just one. These aren't even my channel. Let's go back to my ArtStation page here. I don't have anything. Well, you know what? I lied. I do have a little, probably the mechanical skull is okay. So there's hard surface ZBrush here. Then Substance Painter and rendering Marmoset and all that good stuff. That could be a good start. If you're just concepting and stuff down here, this is a little bit dated. The helmet test assets, it's dated, but you know, there's some videos in here. So some of this stuff hasn't changed. If you just want to block out a mesh, you know, and just be like, hey, how do I block out and refine a helmet? It's, again, there's a lot better techniques now that I'm aware of to do this type of stuff, but it's still semi-relevant. And then also this one, GDC 2015 female, has some hard surface stuff in here. You can kind of watch, I mean, basically you watch the making of her, give or take. And also, even on my Pixelogic channel, like we were talking about earlier, I don't have this on my channel necessarily, but because it was early and I wasn't copying things over. At the very bottom of here, we go through the making of this. Actually, we can just pull this in. Let's see, load tool, and we're going to pop out, that was what, streaming, ZBrush. Basically the making of this young lady, if it ever loads up. Boy, I got a lot of stuff over there. Come on, it's not that heavy. This is back before micropoly, so this was all Nanomesh. This is panel loops here, Nanomesh, and then this is all varying degrees of just concept sculpting, and then, you know, using ZSpheres to kind of rebuild and all sorts of stuff. Live Boolean, maybe. I think this is, I don't think it was before Live Boolean. I think that existed. I mean, this is a really, really old model. But and also, actually, speaking of hard surface modeling, I actually like, it's not hard surface per se, but the boot tutorial in here actually is a lot. It's mostly hard surface, just to kind of block out a boot. You know, so here's 18 videos on how to make a boot, and then also this little helper guide here. So a lot of these techniques are very just hard surfacey, and then going through and getting a boot final result. Because even when you're doing stuff like pouches and stuff, you know, so here's the commander here. So you can see, I mean, I'm just kind of blocking out my boot here. It's kind of what my boot wants to be. And then if you go through here, so here's the block out of the boot refined. So it's like, okay, basically just a bunch of hard surface techniques to get the boot like this. And then you spend 10 minutes going through here and sculpting a little bit of folds, and now you've got boot with folds. But 90% of it, it's hard surface modeling, getting a very precise result, and then going through here and giving a little bit of character and just some basic folds. So anyway, this thing, ArtStation, is probably the easiest. I mean, you can go through my YouTube channel as well, but my YouTube channel is mostly on my ArtStation page, minus the live streams. Okay, I think I'm cut back up. Wacom, pressure sensitivity, curve for belts, and how to weld with the curve. I mean, there's a number of ways to do that. The control curves we talked about earlier would probably be your best bet, but also if we go through here and we'll say, you know what, let me say A for adaptive skin, make adaptive skin, unify. So we got our model here, and you know, let's drop that resolution down. So if you want to put a belt on our character here, welding it all the way around might be a little bit tricky. You can try doing, let's turn up X symmetry, brush, insert, brush, curve, strap, snap, and just wrap it around, and that'll probably get you pretty close. So that's one way you can do a belt. I like a little bit more control, so what I'll usually do is say, just duplicate this off, and then go through here and be like, okay, where do I want my belt to lie? And if I can't see real well, no problem. And here's another thing too, if you have slice, just tap control, and that'll get you visibility. So you can go through here and say delete hidden. Let's do a quick mirror and weld. So I go through here and it's okay, where do I want my belt? Well, here and here. Or you can also hit Control Shift, brush radius, and just do it once. So just make your brush the width of the belt that you want, and then you can just do one swoop. So there's my belt, right? Delete hidden, ZRemesh, half that size down to 0, and now we have a belt mesh. Now if you were like, well, I don't mind the belt mesh, but I want to wrap a specific belt around this, well, then simply go through here, say Polygroup Polyloop here and here, make it two different ones. So now you can go in here to stroke, curve functions, Polygroup border, brush, insert, IMM curve, go in here and say, grab me a bracelet, and then you can just wrap this around, just make your brush size whatever size you want, and now you have a belt that'll go around that exact thing. So now you go here, tap off, just to kind of get rid of that. There was actually a question too, if you can't tap off, just go in here to stroke, curve functions, I think curve, oh sorry, curve functions delete, you can get rid of that. Now you can go in here to visibility, under visibility menu, hide point, Control Shift drag to invert that, geometry modify topology, delete hidden. So now you have a belt that has arbitrary geometry, and you can rotate this around however you want while you have the curve there, and there you go. Now if you have something that needs to be welded and isn't, because again, if it's just a simple belt like this, it's just a simple matter of like, you know, Q mesh, all polygons here. But if you used like, oh, I wanted to wrap this thing around, and what it actually did was give me a, like a gap in here. So you can go through here and you can say Q mesh, polygroup all, and just kind of snap that back. So that's why I also love Q mesh more than some other programs. So you have this gap in here. It's like, I wish those were connected. You can just bridge these two. In this case, I might just push these back too, so I can go through here and say, okay, give me this one. I'm just alt dragging over these, by the way, and we can say delete single poly here, and then we just say bridge two holes here to here, and then insert single edge loop alt. And then if you want nice clean group by normals, there you go. So now you have welded geometry for your belt. Yeah, this is going to be a won't have a portfolio piece by the end of this live stream, but we'll have answered a lot of questions. Let's see if I can get back in here. I don't think I've missed any. So to what Jay Murphy's saying, you can also, you can use the nano wrap tile plane, and that actually has wrap mode turned on. If you want something easier, or not easier, but it is what it is, make Polymesh 3D. And we want to go through here, and let's go and say geometry, turn on smooth. I wouldn't use it for tiling, but it's interesting. So you can go through here, and you can say, okay, I'm sculpting. Underneath your brush options here, there is a wrap mode, so turn that to 2? No, 1. So it'll go ahead and just sculpt tiling on this plane. Now, I would put like a buffer padding around here and frame them. That's a whole thing. And man, tiling, I don't know. It's a whole thing. But that's one way you could do it. And also, if you wanted to just use your canvas as a tiling canvas, you can go in here to document. Let's change this down. Turn off proportional. Say 512 by 512. Resize. Document. It's a little bit hard to see, but let's go in here to document back, and we'll give it a little bit different. So we have this here. So now we can go through here and say, okay, give me a star, edit here. So I'm going to put a star in here. We can do Shift S to drop it through here. And then I can go out of edit mode. I can hit my tilde key, upper left hand for an English keyboard, and then kind of scroll this texture. And if I want to put something else in here, like a sphere, you just drag that out, go into edit mode. Then I get Shift S, Shift S, Shift S. Go out of edit mode, tilde, oops. Oh no, that's a bad thing about, okay, good. Document tiling is, you have to be very careful. I'm not 2.5D expert by any means. And we'll do one more. You know what? We'll throw an arrow. Go into edit mode. Let's go ahead and hit D for dynamic, if I can. Oh, make Polymesh 3D. D for dynamic, smooth that out a little bit, and then, oh boy, it's gonna save everything. Forgot I had a bunch of stuff loaded and I didn't change my settings. There we go. So again, Shift S, we can rotate it this way. Shift S, and I'm staying away from the border here. Let's go out of edit mode. And then we can tilde drag. So now we can go in here to, you can do an MRGB Z grabber. You can go in here to texture, grab doc, alpha, grab doc. So now you have a tiling texture. So let's go back in here to document, W size new, no, and then we'll grab our, I guess we'll just grab a plane because that has UVs on it. So we've got our plane mesh here, and if I want to go into our, well, first alpha, select it, export to our desktop here, call it alpha test, and we'll go in here to our surface noise, noise, grab it. There's our alpha test. So we can say strength up, mix basic noise down, scale, oops, alpha scale. So we can scale this down. You can see it's tiling, and then you can also play around with like offset if you want to kind of punch this thing out. Let's go ahead and do a flip horizontal offset so we can get rid of the plane part. There we go. So here's our surface noise. You know what? Let's go back in here. Let's crank that strength the other direction so it pops out maybe. There we go. So there's our tiling document alpha. Or a good point, you can also use weld points. If it's a, well, if you're using IMM on a curve, it probably won't be flat, but you can give that a shot. If the verts are close enough, you can do that. Low res rope, I would probably use IMM brush. And in fact, you can just download those. If you're like me and you're super lazy and you don't feel like figuring it out, just download an IMM rope brush that somebody's made, an insert mesh curve rope, and then just use that. I thought I had one. Hair, no. I mean, I guess I can kind of use this. This is kind of like rope. So and go through here. And the other cool thing too is, if you know what, let's do this. I'm going to say, what are we doing? Macros, delete, unselected tools. Okay, don't crash because there's a lot of them. Start just clearing ZBrush out here. So we have this, and let's say this is a rope brush. So you can go through here. It's like, okay, it's a good rope brush, a good enough rope brush. However, we can tap off and say split mask points, subtool split. So you can also go through here and do a ZRemesh half, depth size down to 0, and then I'll go ahead and give you new geometry. So if you're looking for like a new res or low res, and let's do same. Yeah, there we go. So now if I do an auto groups, you're gonna see this is a little bit lower res. So even if you start out with an IMM brush that doesn't necessarily have the best resolution you're looking for, you can always go through and again, just use Zremesher to kind of get that result you're looking for. So instead of this geometry, so let's say Control-Shift-A, split hidden, auto groups here. So instead of this geometry, you get this geometry. Something like that. The new ZBrush feature where we can turn a Z-sphere into a curve. I mean, we can no longer need to use the frame mesh anymore. You could actually, you don't even need to wait for that. If you can look up, in fact, I think we had it in here. Oops. Right here, the Curves Helper plugin. That exists already. It's just in ZBrush 2021.5, it's going to be integrated into ZBrush. But yeah, it'll give you a curve down a Z-sphere chain. There's still use, I think, from having this, because one of the things that's going to happen is maybe, let's go through here and we'll say, okay, Z-sphere edit. Let's go E, scale it down, X, Q. So we have our Z-sphere chain. If you want to hold down Shift to snap it, you can do that and then hit Q, Q. Go through here and just kind of Q to draw and then W to move or scale and rotate, whatever you want to do. So here's my Z-sphere chain, start to finish. And even if you pass I don't think I have Curves Helper installed, but even if you pass a curve through here, it's one thing I'd still like to do is if I go through here and I do my adaptive scan, and again, you can skip all this using other methods, but density of 1, Nanomesh resolution, so we'll go ahead and preview this. Actually, let's turn off use classic skinning. There we go. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to say make adaptive skin under adaptive skin menu. There's our skin here. And let's hit Control W, make it all one polygroup. I'm going to get rid of these caps here really quickly, just so we can get a nice clean. So here and here. And geometry modified topology delete hidden. And then again, if I want to pass something through here, it'd just be a simple amount of polygroup polyloop here and then here. So these I can use. However, another thing I can do, now that it's geometry and not Z-spheres, I can still go through here and do, you know what, let's do a polish by features and just kind of smooth that out a little bit. So, and here's the other thing too, even if you have a chain through your Z-sphere, you can always go through here and use your stroke menu. Let's just do this, stroke, frame, or mesh. There is let's say brush, insert, curve, M. You know what, let's do this. Brush, insert, army curve, M, bike chain. So here's our bike chain on here. And again, if you can't tap off this curve, all you got to do is go in here to delete. But there's also a smooth in here. So delete, snapshot, and smooth. Snapshot is 5. So if you want to hit 5 and then turn off bend and snap, and then take this curve and make a duplicate, and then hit 5 and make a duplicate, 5, 5, 5. Turn bend and snap back on, or at least bend, so you can go through here and you can make modifications to this. There's also elastic, so you can go through here and you can add, continue to add, and it'll lock at your start position, so you can actually go through here and make this longer or shorter. And then there's also liquid, so you can actually go back through here and just kind of add or delete what you want. So that's cool. Anyway, and you can also go through here and you can, I think that's what hold down. You can hold down Shift to, ooh boy, that's heavy. Let's hold down Shift and turn that Z intensity way down. So if I hold down Shift while it's blue, boy, that really just wants to smooth the hell out of it, doesn't it? Very carefully you can smooth out these lines. You can actually smooth the curve on your own, or you can go in here to smooth, and here's a curve smoothness. We'll turn this down so we can actually hit, as we're hitting smooth, it's changing that curve. You can see that curve's moving. So then you just got to go back in there and retap, and that'll set it to their curve. So multiple ways to smooth a curve. However, if you want control over that, let's go through here. Control Shift A, delete hidden. Having geometry is also pretty nice because you just have geometry. You can go through here and move this exactly where you need to. So is Curves Helper quick and easy? Sure. If you need ultimate control, through geometry, that might be better. And in fact, one thing I like to do, again, just going for that ultimate control here, is we'll go ahead and put this in here, say split mask points, and we'll say Alt drag around here. So we can go through here, and if I want to go through and say bend curve, you can actually put a curve through this. Let's go ahead and choose our axis, and then you can go through here and non-destructively, for a bit, go through here and make this curve exactly what you need to. You can actually go through here and twist this curve too. If you want your curve to kind of helix around, you can go through here and you can say, oops, it's this one, kind of twist this line around. So now it'll kind of twist as it goes through. And then again, we just do a quick group by normals, crank that max angle up, isolate this here, delete hidden, polygroup here and here, delete hidden, and then just frame your mesh. It'd be cool if you could hide features in the ZModeler menu, like an on-off switch for items gray out ones you don't use. Yeah, that might be like just for a quick and easy, oops, let's turn this off here. Like a way to kind of even colorize or something like that. Maybe customize this menu just a bit. It wouldn't be terrible. Cool. Congratulations, we received 100 messages today with Restream Chat. I'm doing good, thanks for asking. Would you ever do a portfolio review? I could. I don't know if I'm the best guy for that. I like everybody's stuff. Great job, everybody. Most artists miss the forms of the face. Can you give us some tricks? Here's a really good trick. So if you want to do forms of the face, you can hop right in here to the head planes and be like, bam, forms of the face. I mean, you can also, if you're trying to learn the forms of the face, starting with some scan data and then going in, let me see if I can just load something up real quick. CGMA, base bodies. Let's just go ahead and say, I'm going to do a trim curve. We're just going to take, oops, we still have B radius turned on. There we go. So here is our head here. So if you want to kind of go through and take a pre-existing head that you already have and kind of simplify it into the different planes of the face, it's basically just going through here and just, I mean, I kind of lost quite a bit of resolution, but we can get it back. Going through with your H-polish brush, your trim dynamic brush, hold down Alt, let go of Alt, and go through here and basically kind of just dumb this down, not dumb it down, simplify it into a little bit more, it doesn't even have to be necessarily planes. It can still be, you can still have curvature to your planes, but basically as you get, as it kind of turns on that temple right there, and the bridge of the nose and that little box you get there, you can quickly kind of go through there. And doing this in the round also kind of helps too. You can kind of go through here and think about your life, what it means, why are we here, and then as you're pondering your existence, kind of resolving the planes of the face. But also you can just start here. That's a pretty good start. Yeah, if you're okay, that's a good question. So if you're brand new to ZBrush, probably your best bet is to start with this ideation for concept. Don't buy it, but the first 56 videos in here is like an intro to ZBrush primer. So you can go through here, and there's 56 videos that get you up and running with the basics of ZBrush. That'd be where I would start. Let's see. Clean topology for micropoly because some micropoly is not fixed after a line. Probably Zremesher adaptive size down to 0 is going to give you the best quads, but there's going to be some instances where micropoly isn't going to be awesome. And that's just a limitation of just geometry, really. Like, sometimes it's better just to make some geometry and then slice it where you need it after you apply the micropoly on a nice flat thing, and call it a day. Have any mentoring or have any plans to? I don't really mentor. I do have a let's see if I can find it. I do teach at CG Master Academy, ZBrush for Constant Iteration, which is basically that series I showed you earlier. It's just that series, and there's some personal feedback, and you basically 6 weeks of me helping you through that. So there's a live QA every week, and then there's where you can ask questions, and then there's personal feedback every week as well for you to turn in an assignment, and we'll just talk about it for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Can you continue making the classic belt? It's really just modeling. So if we go through here, it's it's probably a little bit easier. So if we go through here and we say, okay, again, I want that slice here. So here's my belt, delete hidden. Let's say ZRemesh half dot size down to 0. And we're just going to get some nice simple geometry through here. And in fact, what I might do while I'm doing this, since I want to maybe smooth this out, is just go into our deformation, polish by features, open circle. We'll just tap that a couple times. And then now we'll get a much cleaner result. Now again, simplify this. So insert, single edge loop, alt, boop, boop. Now, this is where it just becomes poly modeling. So how do you want the belt? Do you want the belt to like overlap and go underneath and go under some hardware like brush, insert, clothing, M, buckle, turn off X symmetry here. Let's go in here. So here's my belt buckle here, and we'll say split mass points. So getting this to kind of work with this geometry is just basically is going to be poly modeling. So one end of your belt, and this is where reference really comes in handy. Belt, not belt, belt. Google image search to the rescue. How does a belt work? Something like this. So, and in fact, just to match this reference so that I'm not losing my mind, scooch this around. So we have our belt going through here, and if we want to modify this, I mean, this is where we go in here and just say, let's transpose a single poly, and you just go through here and you hit W and just move this around. Or you could even, if that's a little bit easier, to go through here and just say Q mesh a single poly, and then hold down Shift while you're Q meshing, and that'll make it easy to kind of pull this around. So you can pull this around here, and then this kind of comes out, and then you have a piece of your belt that goes underneath, right? So you're gonna have to go through here, and you can say delete a single poly here, and then you can just continue extruding this edge in. So we can say extrude edge loop. We'll just keep pulling this edge in, and I think I still have a bad setting here, so we'll say free angle, and then we need to turn off attraction. So we'll just go through here and we'll just turn off attraction, and we'll just continue to make this belt continue that way. And then same thing for this one. Let's do another quick transpose edge loop and just pull this out. And then we can go back through here and we can say extrude our edge. So we're going to continue extruding this belt around. Now you might have a belt loop that connects these two. You can say, there's a couple different ways you can do this, but we can, sorry, it looked a little bit weird. Duplicate this off, and then we can say, you know what, I want you. So we're going to say Alt Tap QMesh polygroup all. Maybe I'm in a bad state here. Let's see, solo mode, undo, alt. Oh, that was weird. So I can get rid of this. Let me say delete hidden. And then we can say QMesh polygroup out here. And we can just, again, just push along here to kind of get this. And then you can say come out this way. And if you want this to be an actual loop, let's do this. You can go through here and you can say inset a single poly here and here. And then again, QMesh polygroup all, and then just pull this back in. If you want to simplify this, again, insert single edge loop alt. So now we have a loop around here. That'll be part of your belt. And then if you need thickness on here, you can do dynamic thickness. If you want to be non-destructive, you can turn on dynamic crease, and then say smooth subdiv of 2 thickness. Just crank up some thickness in here. And you can always turn this off, so Shift D and D to turn that back on. Let's go ahead and uncrease this. Crease, edge loop complete alt. There you go. Here and here. So we've got kind of a belt going. And now that it's smooth, you can kind of see, again, it's just a preview. So you can go through here and kind of just modify this as needed here. And then if you want to punch holes through here, that gets a little bit trickier. This is probably to be something, depending on their end results, I might just fudge it. But you can go through here. Let's say insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup, just put one right down the middle, say increase all, and increase those outer edges again. And then you can go through here and you can say split point here, and then we can say delete single poly, oops, not single poly, polygroup all, blink. And then again, when we turn dynamic back on, sorry, it keeps creasing some stuff I don't necessarily want. You'll have little split edges in there. And then you can also knock down, like crease level 3, subdivided into 2. Let's not do post subdiv. So we'll keep this one. We'll say apply. So now we have real subdivision levels. And then we'll say, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3. And then now we got a cute little belt. Joe Minna, hey, how you doing, man? Go watch that guy sculpt. If you want to see a good sculptor, go watch Joe. If you want to see people make bad looking belts, you can watch me. Let's see, where's the tilde key located in ZBrush, assign it to something else. Ooh, that's a good question. Document tile. Maybe under document somewhere? I honestly don't know where a document drag tile would be in the menus. Show your preferred way to project a mesh onto another mesh using Matchmaker Brush sometimes gives unpredictable results. Yeah, I would probably use Project History instead of... Project History is my go-to, or ZProject Brush. So BZP for ZProject, but Project History is really good. That's probably my go-to now. So on my YouTube channel here, how are we doing on time? Oh, we got 5 minutes. Sorry, everybody. Type in project. Project History is good. That's going to be ZBrush 2020. What's new? There's a bunch of stuff on Project History. And then clean up ZRemesh and ZProject. This is going to be like Project All, which is going to be in your subtool menu. But Project History is awesome. It's really, really good. You can use it across different subtools. You can use it on the same subtool. Really, really powerful. Simple way to add surface noise without stretch polys, maybe using UVs. That's exactly how you would do it. So for example, this here, we go in here to Z plugin, and UV master, work on clone. Well, that is applied. Okay, yes, we're gonna work on clone, and we're gonna say, wait a minute. Oh, Shift D. Yeah, keep our polygroups. So it's not symmetrical, we're going to unwrap, and then if you go into flatten, you're going to see this is the result we're going to get. Let's go ahead and hit, and again, this is just geometry here, so you can literally just go through here and you can control tap this and move it around however you want, control tap this one. In fact, you can go through here and you can do your whole what is it? Mask border, and then you can go through and like smooth out. Hold down Shift to smooth. That's a bit weird. Let's try this. Hold down Shift to smooth, and let's go down here to smooth brush modifiers, min connected 1. Mask border. I mean, I guess you're not really going to be smoothing a lot of these interior ones, but you can go through here and just move your UVs around because it's just geometry, really. So we have our UVs. We're going to say, back to UV master, unflatten, copy UVs, go back to our working mesh here. We're going to paste those UVs. We do want to turn off dynamic. So here's our, oh yeah, that's why I was looking weird, thickness down to 0, duh. So here we have our belt with UVs. If you want to check that, you can go down here to texture map and you can say new, create from UV check. There we go. There's our UVs, nothing's overlapping. So now when we go in here to our, let's turn this off, surface, noise, strength, mix, basic noise is completely off. Let's go into noise plug here. And let's say we want to do some snake skin. Okay. There we go. So mix basic noise off. And then we'll say plugin scale. We'll scale that down. So here's our snake skin. And then we'll say the strength is in the other direction. And we can go in here. Oh, and also, so here's where it's the bad 3D projection. Just turn on UV. So now that you have UVs, it should scale, pun intended, nicely over your mesh because now it has UVs. So again, strength, let's turn off relative. And so there's our snakeskin here. And we got our noise plug. We can go in here to edit. There's a lot of cool things in this snakeskin actually. We can do, or was it snakeskin or was it scales? I think it was scales. Normal. Here's semicircle scales. There we go. Boom. So now we have scales all the way around. Captain America scales. Cool. And again, we got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to do this really quickly. I won't be able to demo everything, but just starting out, I wanted to be a concept artist. What sort of stuff would you do to build a portfolio? So as a concept artist, most of the concept artists I know have pretty good breadth of ability and even style. So, but if you're just starting out, I'm not a concept artist. I really probably shouldn't talk about it too much, but the basics, the fundamentals, design, sensibilities, aesthetics, and messaging. It's all about storytelling. It's all about appropriate messaging, what you want the end user to, I mean, that's true for every position really, but especially for concept artists. So start with the basics, design, composition, that's the type of stuff. Cool, no problem. Can you go over the face forms? Probably not today, but like I said, you can make your own face forms, or they got some pretty good face form starters right there in your projects. How can you know your channel stream times? It's basically the first Tuesday of every month is this channel, same bad time, same bad place, and then first Thursday of the month on my channel. I might skip this Thursday on my channel. We'll see how it goes. But I usually, you know what, on my Twitter, I'll usually say, hey, I'm going to be streaming. Sorry, that's the best I can do, I think. Maintain BPR render results with snapshot to create a custom model character sheet. BPR is a little bit squirrely in that sense. So yeah, normally it would be like, yeah, let me say, Shift S and Shift S and Shift S, and we're going to make a character sheet out of this. However, I mean, there is something you can try. I don't know if it'll work with BPR render though. There is under document, there's a zap link here, and you can say, I want to store the front, the right, and the top and bottom, and then you can say make a character sheet, but I don't think hitting BPR and hitting make character sheet is going to do a BPR. It's just literally going to just do a character sheet. So yeah, BPR, character sheets, storing them, God, I don't know. I don't think, off the top of my head, I don't think there is. I haven't plans with the new cloth stem stuff. I'm really amazed what I've seen. It's actually pretty cool. And there's there's people that are way better at it than I am. I think we used a little bit of cloth on the biker. This is the biker from a regular show, real style. So if you want to see that live stream, it's in there. But if you're new to the cloth, anybody else watching, that's under ZBrush 2021, what's new. There's a ton of really cool micropoly and cloth stuff in here. So again, ZBrush 2021, what's new. Check that out first for all the new, get caught up in the new cloth stuff. Realistic wrinkles. A good start for that would be, sorry, I have to jump off the channel so I don't step on anybody else's toes. Actually, half is probably a bad idea there. Let's turn off. Come on, turn off half. Zremesher. Now, if it's like creature wrinkles, you can, I mean, it's the same thing. You can treat this like cloth, but you know, brush cloth hook. You can go through here and you can get you some wrinkles going and go brush cloth nudge. You can also go in here to dynamic and let's turn smooth up 1. So you can use this to create some realistic wrinkles. And it's also determined by your poly density. So if I hit Control D, I can go through here and I can get a little bit finer wrinkles, and Control D, you are going to bump up against here. So your max simulation point sets to 250. However, what you can do is you can isolate. You like just grab a piece, and now our active points is down to 75. So now you can go through here. So you can actually use visibility to get over that limitation here. So generally what I'll do is I'll be like, you know what, I want nice big cloth wrinkles. I'll say the firmness up to 3 or 4, subdivision down. And if I want a preview of what it's going to look like smooth, I can turn dynamic on, and now I'll get, again, nice smooth. This is actually, see the firmness is way down, so it's going to give me nice, this kind of big, smooth wrinkles. And then I can go in here, and I mean, there's, again, watch those videos. It goes over all the different X, Y, and Z settings and all that stuff. But in a nutshell, you can turn that firmness down. You can turn on self collision, and you can use this to kind of get wrinkles. Please send the link of Joe. Well, let's see here. Let me see if I can find him. I know I see him on Facebook a lot. Here's his ArtStation page. So I'll link this out to you guys. Check him out. Okay, wrapping it up. Wanted to make 2 characters in my game. Kissing one is white, dragon one is pale as hell leather outfit. Do you have a tutorial on your channel? Help me with this. Woo, a whole scene? Probably not. That's just, it's a lot of sculpting. You know, you basically use Transpose Master to pose if you want to, or just pose it out using Transpose. Make sure you have subdivision history, and just make, I mean, the paleness and leather and stuff, that's a lot of technique there. I don't know if I have a whole character walkthrough for that type of thing. Cool. Alrighty. Are you in Twitch too? Yes. So Twitch, Facebook, if Facebook restreams correctly, which is real hit or miss, and then YouTube for me. Cool. Thanks, everybody. See y'all catch y'all later. And signing out as soon as I find my OBS channel. There it is. Okay, later, everybody.